Continuing with the unit number 3, that is structure query language. And today we are going to learn about what are the different aggregate functions. Then aggregate functions with the help of group by clause. Then aggregate functions using the having clause. These are the special clauses that we are going to see. Then we just learn about the null values and the aggregate functions. And followed by question answer session, and we will have some discussion about an assignment. So aggregate functions. These functions operate on multi-set of values of column of a relation and returns a value. What is this? Aggregate functions is, these are the functions, they are operate on multi-set of values of a column of a relation and return a value. They are working on particular column which consists multi-set of values and it will return a single value. So which are the different aggregate functions? So these are the aggregate functions. First one is average. By looking at the name, you can get what is this average means. It will return average value. This average will return the average value of particular column. Next aggregate function is minimum. Suppose there is set of values, and among set of values you need to retrieve a minimum value. In that case, you can use minimum value aggregate function. Next is maximum value. Suppose there are set of values and you want to find out among that values which one is the maximum value. So in that case, you can make use of maximum value. Next, sum. This function will return a sum of values. For example, if you want to calculate sum of values present in particular column, in that case, you can use sum aggregate function. So this is the use of sum. Next is count. What this function will do, it will count the number of values. It will count the number of values present in that particular column. So these are the mainly aggregate functions in SQL. First one is average, next one is mean, next one is max, next is sum, and last one is count. They are called as aggregate functions because they are working on a particular column. Suppose this is the column of relation and these are the different values. They are working on this multiple values. So that's why here it is we have said multi-set of values of a column and it will of particular relation and it will return the single value. This average will return single value. This minimum will return single value. This max will return a single value. This sum will return a single value, and this count aggregate function will also return a single value. So we are going to now learn how to use all these different aggregate functions. Suppose the query is like this. Find the average salary of instructors. Find the average salary of instructors in computer science department. So by looking at this query statement, you will come to know that you have to calculate the average. You have to calculate the average. So from this, you are going to use this aggregate function, average. So how to write the query? This is the way to write the query. Select average. Okay, you have to mention select clause, and then you have to mention this AVG, that is average, and in bracket you have to mention the column name of which you want the average. So you want the average of salary. So just mention this name of the column in this braces. And the next is from instructor, and there is condition where department name is equal to computer science, because in the query itself they have told they want average salary of instructors in computer science department. That's why we have put it this where condition. So this is how you have to use the aggregate function. Again, I am repeating, the query is what? Find the average salary of instructors in computer science department. Once you read this query statement, you should understand what you have to retrieve. You have to retrieve the salary column of instructor, and they want average salary, and there is condition is you have to use computer science department, instructor of computer science department. So here it is, you have to mention select AVG, that is average. In bracket you have to mention the name of the column. So name of the column is salary, and keep in mind this salary column will store the values of type numeric or integer. Then only you can calculate average. Otherwise the query simply gives you the error messages. From instructor, and here it is condition where department name is equal to computer science, and then semicolon. You have to mention this computer science in single quotation. Keep in mind while writing this query on the Oracle, you need to put it in single quotation. So now we are going to learn another example. Suppose this is the query statement. Find the total number of instructors who teach a course in the spring 2010 semester. Read the statement again. Find the total number of instructors. What you have to calculate? You have to find the total number of instructors. That is, you have to count the total instructors. Condition is what? Who teaches a course in the spring 2010 semester. From this semester, from this spring 2000 semester, how many teachers are teaching to the courses fall in this semester? That is spring 2010. So by looking at this statement, you will come to know that you have to make use of the count aggregate function. You have to mention, you have to write the query like this. Select, this is the aggregate function, count. And what you have to count? find the total number of instructors. That is, we can count the IDs. Select count ID, and we want a distinct ID. We want remove the duplicate IDs. So just mention distinct ID in bracket so that you will get the result which doesn't consist multiple values, duplicate values. Which relation we require? From teachers where semester is equal to spring and year is equal to 2010. So this is how you have to write the query with the help of aggregate function. In this query, we have used a count aggregate function, and it will retrieve the number of instructors who teaches to in the semester spring and in the year 2010. So this is how you have to write the aggregate function. Once you read the SQL statement properly, you will understand which aggregate function you have to use. Only thing is that you have to be familiar with all these aggregate functions. Take another example. Find the number of tuples in the course relation. Find the number of tuples in the course relation. So query is what we want to calculate number of tuples in the course relation. Again, we are going to use count aggregate function. Simply, you have to mention select count in bracket asterisk. That is, you are checking all the tuples in the relation. That's why you have to mention this asterisk from course. This simple query will retrieve the number of tuples present in the course relation. This simply retrieves the number of tuples in the course relation. So this is how you have to make use of the count aggregate function. Now we are going to see aggregate functions with the help of group by clause. So this clause will help us to get the result grouped by some particular column. We are going to learn it with the help of example so that you will get clear idea about group by clause. Suppose query is like this. Find the average salary of instructors in each department. This is the query. Find average salary of instructors in each department. So how you have to write the query? You have to write the query like this. Select department name. We want department name. And what we want? Average salary. AVG salary. Okay, we have renamed it using the as clause that we have seen in the last lecture as average salary. From instructor, and here it is, you have to mention group by clause, group by department name. Group by department name. So here it is. You have grouped it by department name. So suppose this is the instructor table, ID name, department name, and salary. These are the different departments. You have grouped it by using group by name, and you will get the result like this. Biology, this is the average salary. Computer science, this is the average salary. Electrical engineering, this is the average salary, and so on. So again I am repeating this, just clear the concept. Group by clause. Find the average salary of instructors in each department. So select department name, average salary as average salary from instructor group by department name. So it will retrieve this result and it will group by department name. Once it will do the group by, you will get the result like this. This is your result. This is your result, and this is just drawn this figure for understanding purpose. It will group by department and it will do the calculate the salary, average salary. So this is how you calculated the average salary by each department of each department. Again I am repeating the query. Find the average salary of instructors in each department. Just read the SQL statement properly. Sometimes you will feel that the query is SQL query is simple to read, but you will get the idea to write the SQL query for the SQL problem statement, that is statement, is somewhat difficult sometimes. You will feel it easy. It will easy to write the query, but so it will not be that much easy to write the query. So this is only one statement. Find the average salary of instructor in each department, and here it is. There is no clue that you have to make use of this aggregate function and group by clause. So you have to work on this concept, then only you will understand for which query, which clause you have to use. For that purpose, you need to do some practice. That's why I have assigned some assignments so that you will get familiar with the statements, and automatically when you read any query, SQL query statement, you will get idea how to write the SQL query. So this is all about the group by clause. Next, attributes in select clause outside of aggregate functions must appear in the group by list. This is the one rule that you have to remember while writing group by clause. Attributes in the select clause outside of aggregate functions must appear inside the group by clause. So for example, outside the average is ID and department name. There are two attributes which is outside the aggregate function, that is department name and ID. And in the group I, you have mentioned only the department name. You have mentioned only the department name, which is wrong. You have to mention all the attributes present outside the aggregate function, that is department name and ID. So this query will be a erroneous query. This query will not work. So keep in mind, whenever you write the having clause, you need to mention all the attributes that you have mentioned in the select clause in the group by clause. Otherwise, query will not execute. So moving forward, we are going to learn about the aggregate functions with having clause. With having clause. So just see what is the query. Query is find the names and the average salary of all departments whose average salary is greater than 42,000. What we have to calculate over here? We have to calculate the name and average salary of all departments whose average salary is greater than 42,000. So just see how you have to write the query. What we have to find the names. So in the select we have mentioned department name and average salary, comma average salary of all departments. Keep in mind average salary from instructor group by department name, and you are using the having clause. Having average salary is greater than 42,000. So this query will retrieve the department name along with the salary whose average salary is greater than 42,000. So this is how you have to use this having clause. Again I am repeating. Select department name, average salary from instructor, group by department name. What this query will retrieve? This query will retrieve the department name along with its salary, average salary, whatever it could be. And we have just filtered it using the having clause. Having average salary is greater than 42,000. So whatever result of this will remove or retrieve the rows which satisfy this condition. And this is what we need. It is mentioned in the query itself. And this is the way to you make use of this having clause. So there is note. Predicates in the having clause are applied after the formation of groups, whereas predicates in the where clause are applied before forming the groups. So this is the note. You have to take care about it. Once you practice it, you will understand this. Next is null values and aggregates. For example, total all salaries. You need to calculate all salaries. Total of all the salaries. At the end, suppose a particular organization want to know the total salary to be given to the employees. So you have to calculate total salaries. So here it is. Query you have to write like this. Select sum. You have to mention in the bracket name of the column, that is salary, from instructor. From instructor. And this above statement ignores null amounts. Suppose there is one tuple who doesn't consist any salary, there will not be any value, that is null value for that cell. It will simply ignore that. And result is null if there is no non-null amount. Okay, so it will retrieve simply the total salaries, it will ignore the null values. All aggregate operations except count star. Ignore tuples with null values on the aggregate attributes. All aggregate operations except count ignores the tuples with the null on the aggregate attributes. If you're working on with the help of any aggregate function, that is mean, max, average, sum, all will exclude or ignore the null values. Only count will count that null value. What if collection has only null values? Count simply returns the 0 and all other aggregate returns a null value. The next is nested subqueries. SQL provides a mechanism for nesting of subqueries. SQL provides a mechanism for nesting of subqueries. What is meant by a subquery? Query within a query is called a subquery. Simple definition. A subquery is a select from where expression that is nested within another query. It is called as nested subquery. So this is the way to do this. This is just general syntax to do the nesting of the queries. The nesting can be done in the following SQL query. Select A1, A2 to AN from R1, R2 to Rn, where P, that is predicate. AI can be replaced be a subquery that generates a single value. You can write the subquery in the select clause. Only thing is that you have to write the subquery that generates a single value. Next is Ri can be replaced by any valid subquery. You can write the subqueries inside this. And P can be replaced with the expression of the form B operation, and then you can mention the subquery. So in the predicate itself, you can mention the subquery. You have to follow this syntax B operation, and then you have to mention the subquery. Where B is an attribute and operation can be defined later. So this is how you have to mention the nested subquery. Now we are going to learn it with the help of example. First, we are going to learn subqueries in the where clause. Subqueries in the where clause. A common use of subqueries is to form tests for set membership, for set comparison, and for set cardinality. We are going to learn it with the help of examples so that you will get the better idea. Set membership. For example, queries like this. Find the courses offered in fall 2019 and in spring 2010. So this is the query. How to write this query? Answer to this query is just C. This is the answer to this query. Select distinct course ID from section where semester is equal to fall and year is equal to 2009. And just see, course ID in, and in this bracket we have mentioned the subquery. Select course ID from section where semester is equal to spring and year is equal to 2010. So up to this, it will retrieve the result having this condition: semester is fall and year is equal to 2009. And we have written the subquery like this. Just see what we want. We want course ID in. Course ID in. And this is the again second subquery. This is the subquery. Nested subquery. What it will retrieve? It will retrieve again course ID from section and semester is equal to spring and year is equal to 2010. And combination of this result will give you the answer for this query. It will list out, or it will find courses offered in fall 2009 and spring 2010. Next query. Find courses offered in fall 2009 but not in spring 2010. Query is what? Find courses offered in fall 2009 but not in spring 2010. So this is the query you have to write. Select. We want distinct course ID. So just mention distinct course ID from section where semester is equal to fall and year is equal to 2009. And course ID not in. What we have mentioned in the query, but not in spring 2010. That's why we have mentioned over here, not in. Select course ID from section where semester is equal to spring and year is equal to 2010. So this is the way to write the nested subqueries. So again, this will retrieve the result of, it will retrieve the course ID whose semester is fall and year is equal to 2009. In course ID not in, it will check the result of this query and it will retrieve the queries which is not in this query's result. Select course ID from section where semester is equal to spring and year is equal to 2010. Except this, remaining tuples will be retrieved by this whole query. So this is how you can write the nested subquery in the where clause. Another one example. Find the total number of students who have taken course section taught by instructor with ID 10101. What is the query? We have to find the total number of students who have taken course section taught by instructor with ID 10101. Just see how you have to write the query. Select count distinct ID from text. To retrieve the result, we require this text relation present in the university schema that we have studied, where course ID, section ID, semester, year in. And this is the query. Select course ID, section ID, semester, year. from teachers, and here it is the condition where teachers.id is equal to 10101. So it will retrieve this result of this query, and this query will check whether this course ID, section ID is present in this result of this in this query or not. If it is present, then it will retrieve the distinct ID of the student. So this is how you have to use the nested subquery in the where clause. So it is just note the above query can be written in much simpler manner. The formation above is simply to illustrate the SQL features. Okay, so a single query can be written in different ways, and only thing is that how you think and how you have written the query, that is the matter. So same query can be written in different way and we'll get the same result.